There are more brothers in jail, in prison, in juvenile hall than on the college campus. That's by design. That's systematic. Because that's happening in New York, Philly, Houston, Oakland, LA. More brothers in prison, jail, and juvenile hall than in college. And so what we have to do is at least help them not to get caught up in the traps. Let them know that this system is literally out to kill them. To kill them. And so now we have to give them a way of how to avoid the traps. Education, a knowledge of the system. They have to have positive role models. You know what I'm saying? They have to see brothers who are not into the drugs. They got to see brothers who are trying to be right. Brothers who are trying to be upright, and so on and so forth. Role modeling is critical. We have to make sure, young people in general, the sex, the boyfriend-girlfriend thing, that's really dangerous stuff, y'all. I ain't talking about like necessarily STDs and stuff. Yeah, that too. But when you do the boyfriend-girlfriend thing, it's imitation marriage. It's imitation marriage. And so somebody's going to get hurt. Somebody, usually the woman, somebody's going to get hurt. So the sex thing, the preoccupation with sex, the preoccupation with drugs, the preoccupation with material things, you know what I'm saying? This crazy music that they're listening to, these crazy images that they're seeing, and they're adopting those images, those types of things. Putting things on their minds. They like history. The young people like history. The young people don't usually like history. When you look at things like the concept of OG, he OG. Right? The original gangster, that means he's older. You gotta give him his respect. That's the concept of history. Throwbacks, they still wear throwbacks. Right? Throwback, you know what throwbacks is? Throwbacks, right? That's a respect for history. So they have a respect for history. And they want to know. And so we have to help give them that history. It's a huge issue, a huge problem. But we have to go get them. We have to go get them, inshallah.
Mr. Malik, just one last question. First of all, I'd like to thank you for coming out here today and sharing your perspective with us. Although I adamantly disagree with many of your claims, I think each person holds their own truth and that peace will only be found once we're able to step into each other's shoes and understand each other. After all, there's many sides to every story. Unfortunately, this week's events focus solely on Oh, you gave everyone else 60 seconds. So. Unfortunately, this week's events focus solely on criticizing Israel rather than taking an objective stance on the issue and recognizing that both sides have their own faults. I noticed the same pattern in both your lectures today, in which you basically praised Hamas and Hezbollah, both organizations which are responsible for attacks which intentionally targeted Zionist Jewish civilian populations in Israel. According to the Palestinian Petroleum Authority, 18 days ago, Hamas militiamen attacked fuel trucks that were intended to deliver fuel to United Nations Relief and Works Agency, which would be used to distribute food to the Palestinian people. In addition, the Palestinian Authority Health Ministry exposed that Hamas was blocking fuel supplies to hospitals and clinics and stole the fuel for its own use. A Palestinian government official stated, quote, "Hamas's measures are aimed at creating a crisis. How will we be able to end the suffering of the Palestinian people if we are unable to acknowledge that the Palestinian leadership has been and continues to be unjust to its very own people?"
Sorry, we gotta cut off the mic right now. Amir Abdel Malik Ali will be in the lobby in a few seconds, so you can talk to him.
By not lying on the Palestinian people. Those are lies about Hamas. Those are straight up lies about Hamas. I mean, like, check this out. Those are straight up lies about Hamas. You know what I'm saying? And so, yeah, the problem is when people do something, when people are supposed to be a certain way. Check this out. When people are supposed to be a certain way, they look at themselves in a certain way. In this case, let's say Jewish. They look at themselves as being a spiritual people. They look at themselves as being victims of oppression. They look at themselves in that way. When they turn and oppress another people, they oppress them. They're doing something that's inconsistent with like what they're supposed to be. And so what they'll do is they'll engage in denial. Denial. You know what I'm saying? Because what happens is that if you're an oppressed person, how could you oppress another person? You can't deal with that. You can't deal with that. You can't. They deserve it. They deserve it. Justification. Justification. So now you have to justify your inconsistent behavior. Your people suffered the Holocaust. Your people went through suffering. Your people went through pain. And you are now subjecting another people, not the Germans. You're subjecting another people who had nothing to do with the Holocaust to pain, to exploitation, to degradation, right? To oppression. And so the way that you deal with it is, well, they deserve it. They deserve it. They deserve it. That's a serious state of denial. And it's not going to get us anywhere. Now you saw now, the Palestinians are some very, very strong people. And you have not been able to subdue them. And as a result of that, your days